Hi everyone out there in YouTube land, this is Steve the Owl with another post. This one's called He Knows Something You Don't Know. Why is it called He Knows Something You Don't Know? For those of you who aren't sports fans, this is a picture of Joe Namath. He was the quarterback for my favorite team, the New York Jets, as they had their most triumphant moment, winning Super Bowl III in January 1969. So, why do I have a poster in my house of someone who had his greatest moment more than 10 years before I was born? Well, Joe Namath had his greatest moment of triumph because he knew something that other people did not know. In the 1968 season, the New York Jets had won the AFL East Division, and they won the AFL Championship for their first ever AFL Championship. 2 years earlier, the AFL and the NFL had decided to merge after the 1969 season, and they would have a world championship between the AFL and NFL championship until then. That game would eventually be known as the Super Bowl. However, at this point, the game was anything but super. The Green Bay Packers had won Super Bowls I and II by the Kansas City Chiefs and Oakland Raiders by such a wide margin that the AFL was considered a joke. As a matter of fact, the AFL owners, prior to Super Bowl III, were considering asking the NFL to back out of the merger because of just how much they worried that the competition was so lopsided. The Jets were 18-point underdogs against the favored Baltimore Colts. The Baltimore Colts went 13-1 in the regular season, losing only one game. They lost that game to the Cleveland Browns, who they slaughtered in the NFL Championship 34-0. So, this was a team that people considered to be one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time. And here were the Jets, an 11-3 team with a brash young quarterback only in his fourth season at the age of 25, who was up against this greatest team ever. So the question then became, what makes them think they can win? This is going to be a brutal, ugly game. And after a while, Joe Namath got sick and tired of hearing it. And he said to a reporter, "I'll tell you something, the Jets are going to win on Sunday, I guarantee it." He went on to say that there were 5 quarterbacks in the AFL who were better than Earl Morrall, the starter for the Baltimore Colts. Well, that would have made people mad enough, but one of the other people who he said was better than Earl Morrall was Babe Parilli, his 15th year quarterback, who was his backup. So in other words, he was saying that Earl Morrall was only a third string quarterback with the Jets. It's true that the AFL had a lot greater passing game than the NFL at the time, but this is not something that's sat well with the Baltimore fans or with the Baltimore Colts. So everybody, including Joe Namath's coach, Weeb Ewbanks, was worried because Weeb Ewbank thought that this was just going to add fuel to Baltimore's fire and give them the motivation they needed to crush this 25-year-old upstart with the famously bad knees. Well, the Jets had a plan. One of the things that they knew was that Don Maynard, their all-AFL wide receiver, had an injury, but they didn't want the Colts to know how bad the injury was. So on the very first play, Maynard went deep. The pass was an incompletion, and Maynard would not catch a pass all day, but the Jets proved that they were not a one-dimensional team. Namath instead passed to Sauer, George Sauer, his number 2 wide receiver, and Maynard was a brilliant decoy. He also used a running game that was completely underestimated, constantly going to his left, to the right side of the Baltimore Colts, which was a lot weaker than everyone thought. And eventually the Jets scored a touchdown, then they scored a field goal, then they scored another and another. The score was 16-0. The Colts, in a desperate move, tried to bring Johnny Unitas back, the legendary quarterback, late in the second half. He was able to muster one touchdown with about 4 minutes to go but it was no luck. The Jets dominated the game. They won 16-7, and NFL history, sports history, and to a certain extent pop culture history was changed forever because Joe Namath knew something that other people didn't know.